Mandy Brown hated mornings at Hanul Group. Not because of the long hours, or the constant pressure of handling accounts worth millions of dollars, but because mornings always meant facing him. Kang Junwoo. The man was ice in human form. A CEO so precise, so exacting, that even his employees joked the building's thermostat dropped whenever he walked in. His words were clipped, his gaze cutting, his approval nearly impossible to win. And for some reason Mandy could never understand, he seemed to despise her more than anyone else. The feeling, as far as she was concerned, was mutual. She strode through the lobby in her tailored navy suit, coffee in one hand, files in the other. The marble floors echoed under her heels, each step a silent declaration, "I will not let him break me today." The elevator ride to the top floor felt longer than usual. When the doors opened, she walked into silence. Staff avoided her eyes. No one wanted to be caught in the crossfire when she and Junwoo clashed. His office door was open. He was already there, sitting behind a desk that looked more like a fortress than furniture. His black suit was immaculate, his silver tie pin gleaming under the morning light. He didn't look up when she entered. Instead, he spoke in that low, unhurried voice that carried more bite than a shout. "You're late." Mandy glanced at the clock on the wall. 8:55. 5 minutes early. Her jaw clenched. "No, I'm not. I told you I'd have the expense report ready by 9. Now he looked up. His dark eyes met hers, cool and unreadable. When you're responsible for millions of dollars, 5 minutes is late. She placed the report on his desk with a deliberate thud. When you actually read it, you'll see the numbers balanced perfectly. Again. For the first time, a flicker of irritation cracked through his mask. "You're awfully confident for someone so new to this company. And you're awfully rude for someone who signs my paycheck," she shot back. The silence that followed was heavy, dangerous. They stared at each other like two predators circling the same territory, neither willing to back down. Finally, Junwoo leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. His lips curved, not into a smile, but something colder. "Tell me, Ms. Brown, do you argue because you believe you're right, or because you can't stand being wrong?" Mandy's heart kicked against her ribs, but she refused to flinch. "I argue because someone has to stop you from thinking you're untouchable." For a moment, something flickered in his gaze, something sharp, almost vulnerable. But then it vanished, swallowed by the mask he always wore. "You may leave," he said simply. She turned, her chin high, but her pulse was racing. Their battles were exhausting, yet somehow addictive. And as she left his office, one thought burned in her mind. If I hate him so much, why does it feel like every argument pulls me closer? The office was always quieter at night. The kind of quiet that made every tick of the clock echo like a drumbeat. Mandy rubbed her tired eyes, staring at the spreadsheets glowing on her screen. Most people had gone home hours ago, but she had deadlines to meet, and truthfully, she preferred these hours. No whispers, no stares, and most importantly, no Junwoo breathing down her neck. She reached for her coffee, now cold, when something caught her attention. An irregularity. She frowned and clicked deeper into the files. The numbers didn't add up. A wire transfer, $2,000,001, marked as a logistics expense. But when she traced it, the destination account didn't belong to any supplier she recognized. She dug further, fingers moving faster now. More transfers. More suspicious entries. Money was flowing out of the company into what looked like shell corporations overseas. Her pulse quickened. This isn't a mistake. Someone's stealing from the company. She printed the records quickly, sliding them into a folder. She'd have to be careful. Exposing fraud in a company this powerful was dangerous. The sound of the elevator broke the silence. Mandy stiffened. The clock read 11:37 p.m. No one should be here at this hour. Then she saw him. Junwoo stepped out, his jacket off, his tie loosened. Even disheveled, he carried himself with the same controlled sharpness. His gaze landed on her instantly. "You're still here." His tone wasn't a question, it was an accusation. Mandy forced her heartbeat to steady. She casually shifted the folder with the suspicious documents under a stack of other files. "Numbers don't balance themselves," she said lightly. He walked closer, his footsteps echoing in the empty office. "You don't trust your team?" "I don't trust sloppy math," she replied. He stopped in front of her desk, too close. The soft scent of his cologne wrapped around her, annoyingly intoxicating. He studied her face with unnerving intensity, as if he could read her thoughts. "You look unsettled," he said at last. "Maybe I'm just unsettled by my boss sneaking up on me like it's a horror movie," she shot back, though her voice wasn't as steady as she wanted. One corner of his mouth twitched, almost like he wanted to smile, but didn't. He leaned down slightly, his voice low, dangerous. "Careful, Mandy. Some truths are better left untouched." Her breath caught. Did he know what she had found? She forced herself to smirk, though her palms were sweating. "And some truths," she whispered back, "are the only things that matter." Their eyes locked, and for a moment, the tension between them shifted. It wasn't just hostility anymore. It was something hotter, something neither of them wanted to name. Junwoo straightened abruptly, retreating behind his mask. "Go home, Ms. Brown. You'll need rest if you're going to keep up with me." He walked away, leaving her shaken. Mandy sat frozen at her desk, her heart thudding. She glanced at the hidden folder. He knows. And suddenly, she realized something chilling. Her battle with Junwoo might not just be about pride or power anymore. It might be about survival. The following week was war. Mandy couldn't look at Junwoo without remembering his cryptic words. Some truths are better left untouched. She had been replaying them every night, trying to decide if he was threatening her or warning her. Either way, her instincts screamed that she was standing in the middle of something dangerous. But the more she tried to keep her distance, the more he seemed to appear everywhere. In meetings, his gaze lingered on her longer than necessary. In elevators, their shoulders brushed, sending sparks through her that she stubbornly ignored. At night, when she worked late, she would sometimes catch him watching her from the doorway before disappearing again. The tension was unbearable, like a wire pulled too tight. It finally snapped during a board meeting. They had been reviewing financial forecasts when Junwoo dismissed her report without even glancing at it. "This is sloppy," he said coldly, sliding the document back toward her. Mandy's blood boiled. "Sloppy? I double-checked every figure. If anyone here is being sloppy, it's you for not bothering to read." The room went silent. Executives shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting between them. No one ever spoke to Kong Junwoo like that. His jaw tightened, eyes flashing. "Outside. Now." Mandy stood, her heels clicking furiously as she followed him into the corridor. The door shut behind them, muffling the whispers left in their wake. "What the hell was that?" he demanded, his voice low but seething. "That," Mandy shot back, "was me doing my job. You don't get to dismiss months of work just because you're in a mood. You think this is about moods? You think this company runs on feelings?" He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. "One mistake, and billions are gone. I can't afford weakness." Her chest heaved, fury burning in her veins. "Maybe the real weakness is pretending you're some kind of god who doesn't need anyone. You push everyone away, Junwoo. But newsflash, you're human." His name slipped out before she could stop herself. For a heartbeat, his expression cracked. Shock, anger, something raw flashing through his eyes. The silence between them pulsed like a heartbeat. He was too close now, the air between them charged with something neither wanted to name. "Mandy." His voice was hoarse, almost vulnerable. "You drive me insane." Before she could respond, he caught her wrist, pulling her closer. Their eyes locked, both daring the other to back down. She didn't. And then his lips crashed onto hers. The kiss was fire and fury, angry, desperate, forbidden. She pushed against his chest at first, torn between resisting and surrendering. But when his hand slid to the small of her back, pulling her deeper into him, her resistance melted into something else entirely. Her heart thundered. His mouth was warm, urgent, like he'd been holding back for too long. She kissed him back, fiercely, hungrily, hating herself for how much she wanted it. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. His forehead rested against hers, his grip on her wrist loosening but not letting go. "This shouldn't happen," he whispered. "Then why did you do it?" Mandy asked, her voice trembling with equal parts anger and desire. He didn't answer. His mask slid back into place, though his chest still heaved with unspoken feelings. Without another word, he turned and walked away, leaving her alone in the corridor, lips swollen, heart racing, her entire world flipped upside down. Mandy pressed a hand to her mouth, still tasting him. God help me, she thought. I think I've just kissed my enemy. The kiss haunted Mandy. She replayed it every night, how his lips had claimed hers with raw urgency, how she had kissed him back with the same hunger she swore she didn't feel. By day, they fought as usual, their sparring sharper than ever. But by night, something had changed. It started with the elevator. She worked late, as always, and when the doors opened on the nearly empty floor, Junwoo was already there, leaning against the wall. Their eyes met, and neither said a word. Yet the silence between them felt heavier than conversation. Another night, she caught him watching her work from the doorway of her office. He didn't step inside, didn't speak, just stood there, as though drawn to her despite himself. When she finally looked up, their eyes locked, and he left without a word. The tension was unbearable. And underneath it all, Mandy carried the weight of the ledger. Every day, the folder stayed hidden in her desk drawer, a secret that burned hotter the closer she got to him. She wanted to believe he wasn't involved, but the thought gnawed at her. What if she was falling for the very man she'd one day have to expose? One night, she decided to confront him. She found him on the rooftop of the building, the city sprawling beneath them like a galaxy of lights. He stood with his back to her, tie loosened, hands gripping the railing. "You followed me," he said without turning around. "I work here," Mandy replied, crossing her arms. "You don't own the roof." He chuckled darkly, but it wasn't amusement, it was exhaustion. "I own everything beneath it. Sometimes I come up here to remember there's still something bigger than me." The vulnerability in his tone startled her. This wasn't the cold CEO everyone feared. This was a man. "Why do you do it?" she asked softly. "Why carry all that weight alone?" Finally, he turned. His eyes weren't cold now, they burned, but with something deeper. "Because trust is dangerous. People will always betray you." Her throat tightened. "Is that what he thinks of me too?" For a moment, neither moved. Then, as if pulled by gravity, he closed the distance between them. His hand brushed her cheek, tentative, almost afraid. "Mandy," his voice was a whisper. "You shouldn't be near me." "Then stop pulling me in," she whispered back. And this time, when their lips met, it wasn't angry or desperate. It was slow, searching, a confession neither dared to speak aloud. His hand cupped her face, hers gripped his suit, and for a few fleeting seconds, the world outside the rooftop didn't exist. When they finally broke apart, her heart ached with the truth she didn't want to admit. She was falling for him. But as his phone buzzed, shattering the moment, she saw the name flashing across the screen. Chairman Kong. His father. Junwoo's expression shifted instantly, the warmth in his eyes shuttered behind steel. He stepped back, answering the call in Korean too fast for her to follow. His voice was sharp, angry, laced with something that sounded like fear. Mandy wrapped her arms around herself, the cold night air suddenly biting. And in that moment, she realized the real danger wasn't just the secret in her drawer. It was the man she was beginning to love, and the shadow looming behind him. The ledger weighed heavier in Mandy's desk each day, like a ticking time bomb. She knew she had to confront Junwoo with the evidence, but how could she, after their rooftop kiss? After feeling his walls crumble in her hands? But the numbers didn't lie. One evening, when most of the staff had gone home, she pulled the folder out again, spreading the sheets across her desk. Transfer after transfer, all leading to accounts under different names, but one common thread tied them together. Kong Byung-ho, Junwoo's father, the chairman of Hanul Group. Her stomach dropped. No. It can't be this simple. It can't be this dirty. She was still staring when Junwoo appeared in her doorway. His presence filled the room, his expression unreadable. "You're working late again," he said softly. Mandy swallowed hard, heart racing. She could lie, hide the papers, pretend she hadn't uncovered the truth. But she couldn't. "Sit down," she said instead, her voice shaking. He studied her carefully, then stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "What's this about?" She pushed the folder toward him. "It's your father. He's been laundering money through the company. Millions, Junwoo. Maybe billions." For the first time, the mask shattered. He looked at the papers, then at her, his jaw tightening. "You're sure?" "Positive. I checked everything twice. If this goes public, the company collapses. And you," she hesitated, her voice cracking, "you could lose everything." His hands gripped the desk, knuckles white. "My father wouldn't." "He would." Mandy's voice was fierce now. "And he has. You can't keep pretending not to see it." The room pulsed with silence, heavy with betrayal and grief. His eyes burned into hers, but for once, he didn't look angry. He looked broken. "Mandy," his voice was rough, torn. "You should have stayed out of this." Her chest ached. "I couldn't. I care too much." The words slipped out before she could stop them, and his eyes widened. For a heartbeat, something raw and terrifying passed between them. And then the office door opened. Chairman Kong stepped inside, flanked by 2 suited bodyguards. His presence was suffocating, his smile cruel. "So," he said in flawless English, his voice smooth as poison, "the little accountant thinks she's clever." Mandy's blood ran cold. How had he known? Junwoo immediately stepped in front of her, shielding her with his body. "Leave her out of this, father." Chairman Kang's gaze hardened. "If she exposes me, you lose everything too. Don't forget who built this empire you stand on." Mandy's voice shook, but she forced herself to speak. "And don't forget what happens when the truth comes out. The law doesn't bow to you." The chairman laughed, low and dangerous. "You think the law will protect you, girl? You don't understand how this world works." Junwoo's fists clenched at his sides. "Enough." For the first time, Mandy saw fear in Junwoo's eyes, not for himself, but for her. And in that moment, she realized the danger was far greater than losing her job, or even her heart. It was about survival. The chairman's threats didn't stay in the office. Within days, whispers spread. Journalists camped outside Hanul Group headquarters, hungry for blood. Stock prices plummeted. Board members panicked. And in the middle of the storm, Mandy became a target. Anonymous emails. Strange cars parked outside her apartment. A chilling voicemail with nothing but silence on the other end. Junwoo tightened security around her, assigning discreet guards, but Mandy saw the toll it took on him. His eyes were shadowed, his jaw tense, like a man standing on the edge of war. One night, after yet another emergency board meeting, she found him in his office, staring at the city with a glass of whiskey in his hand. "You should quit," he said without turning. His voice was hoarse. "Leave this company. Leave me. Before my father destroys you." Mandy's heart twisted. "And what about you? You think I can just walk away knowing you're going down with him?" He turned then, eyes blazing with desperation. "I don't care what happens to me. But you," his voice cracked. "I can't lose you." The words hit harder than any kiss. Mandy crossed the room, standing so close she could feel the tremor in his breath. She cupped his face in her hands, forcing him to look at her. "You're not losing me," she whispered fiercely. "Not now. Not ever." For the first time, his mask broke completely. His lips crushed against hers, not angry this time, but aching, hungry, full of everything he'd been holding back. Mandy melted into him, pouring her defiance, her loyalty, her love into the kiss. But reality crashed back with the shrill ring of his phone. It was the police. By dawn, Chairman Kong was in handcuffs, his empire crumbling around him. Evidence Mandy had uncovered, paired with whistleblowers Junwoo convinced to come forward, had sealed his fate. The scandal shook South Korea's financial world to its core. Junwoo faced brutal press conferences, shareholders demanding his resignation, vultures circling the weakened company. Yet through it all, Mandy never left his side. Weeks later, after the dust began to settle, they stood together on the rooftop, the same place where she had first seen his cracks. The city glowed beneath them, battered but unbroken. "Everything's gone," Junwoo said quietly. "The company, my father's legacy, all ashes." Mandy slipped her hand into his, their fingers entwining. "Then we build something new. Together." He looked at her, truly looked at her, and for once, there was no mask, no ice, no armor. Just a man stripped bare, holding on to the only person who hadn't abandoned him. "You terrify me, Mandy," he admitted, his voice raw. "Because you're the first person I've ever let close enough to break me." Her eyes softened, a tear slipping free. "Then let me break you, and put you back together better than before." He laughed softly, the sound rough and disbelieving, before pulling her into his arms. Their kiss under the Seoul skyline was slow, tender, and final, not the beginning of a war, but the start of something worth fighting for. For the first time, they weren't enemies. They weren't rivals. They were survivors. And in the ashes of ruin, they had found love. The end.